What comes to mind when you think of Moldova? Perhaps not much. Yet this small Eastern European country is brimming with fascinating stories, quirky traditions, and surprising world records. From the world's largest wine cellars and breathtaking monasteries to super-fast internet and a village straight out of a fairy tale, Moldova is a hidden gem waiting to be explored. But did you know it's also the least visited country in Europe? Join us as we uncover the incredible history, culture, and unexpected facts that make Moldova truly one of a kind. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button for more amazing stories from around the world. The flag of Moldova consists of vertical blue, yellow, and red stripes with the coat of arms of Moldova in the middle. The obverse is a mirrored version of the reverse, and the flag ratio is 1:2. The coat of arms of Moldova consists of a shield divided into two horizontal parts, an upper part consisting of red chromatics and a lower part consisting of blue chromatics, with a superimposed tour head between the two parts. Formally, Moldova is a unitary parliamentary representative democratic republic, the governance structure of which is determined by the 1994 Constitution of Moldova. However, in practice, everything is more complicated, but more on that below. Moldova is a landlocked country in Eastern Europe, consisting mainly of rolling plains between the Prut and Dniester rivers. The country is one of 5 European countries that have only 2 neighbors: Estonia, Liechtenstein, Sweden, and Andorra. In the case of Moldova, the 2 neighboring countries are Romania and Ukraine. The country covers an area of 13,068 square miles, and much of it consists of fertile land. The highest point is Balanesti Hill at 1,411 feet, and the lowest point is the Dniester at 6.6 feet. Approximately 3/4 of the country's territory is agricultural land, while the remainder consists of forests about 15% and wetlands about 4%. Moldova's main industries include sugar, wine, vegetable oil, food, processing textiles, refrigerators, washing machines, and agricultural machinery. Not surprising when you consider that approximately 3/4 of the country's territory is agricultural land. The main natural resources of Moldova are brown coal, gypsum, limestone, phosphorites, and of course arable land. The monetary unit of Moldova is the leu. Don't confuse this with the Romanian leu, which has the same name but is worth about 4 times as much at the time of this writing. €1 can be exchanged for approximately 20 Moldovan lei. $1 would be equal to approximately 18 Moldovan lei. The majority of Moldovans profess Orthodoxy, approximately 94%. The remainder consists of unspecified at 2%, Catholics at 1.2%, Baptists at 1%, others at 0.8%, and atheists around 1%. Moldova's infrastructure tells an intriguing story of connectivity and scale. The country boasts a road network stretching an impressive 9,359 kilometers, complemented by 1,157 kilometers of railway lines that weave through its scenic landscapes. Its 410 kilometers of waterways further enhance its transport potential, reflecting Moldova's historical reliance on rivers for trade. With 1,885 kilometers of land borders, Moldova is strategically nestled between neighboring countries, offering vital cross-border links. Adding a touch of modernity, the nation's primary gateway to the skies is Chisinau International Airport, a hub that connects the capital to the world. With 150,000 to 180,000 international arrivals per year, Moldova is convincingly the least visited country in Europe and one of the least visited countries in the world. This is surprising considering how easy it is for Europeans to travel to other countries on the continent. To be fair, the number of international arrivals increased between 2010 and 2020, but after the global pandemic, the number of foreign visitors to Moldova fell again. We still think Moldova is an amazing and underrated country, and we hope this list of fun facts about Moldova gives you a few reasons to visit. Another of my favorite reasons to visit Moldova is wine. Moldova has over 112,000 hectares or 276,000 acres of vineyards planted throughout the country. There are 4 historical wine regions: Codru in central Moldova, Stefan Voda in southeast Moldova, Valui Lui Traian in southwest Moldova, and Balti in northern Moldova. Moldovans are proud of their winemaking history, which dates back to 3000 BC. Moldovans are so crazy about wine that they even have an entire underground wine city. The underground city of Craiova is a symbol of Moldovan winemaking. The galleries of Craiova stretch for more than 70 kilometers. In Craiova, there are many streets named after different types of wine, such as Dionysus, Cabernet Sauvignon, Feteasca, and so on. This city is located about 10 kilometers from the capital, Chisinau. Inside are thousands of liters of wine aged in ideal conditions of 12 to 14 degrees Celsius and humidity of 97 to 98%. According to urban legends, world-famous cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin visited the cellars in 1966 and had to be helped when he left 2 days later because he was too drunk. Another well-known fact is that Russian President Vladimir Putin celebrated his 50th birthday here. Knowing this, you won't be surprised that Moldova is also home to the largest wine cellar in the world. The Guinness World Record for the largest wine cellar in the world belongs to Molesti Mici from Moldova. About 2 million bottles of wine are stored in the cellars of this wine cellar. The most valuable drinks in the collection are sold at a price of €480 each. The bottles are stored in 55 kilometers of underground galleries dug during lime mining in the past, when Moldova was part of the USSR. These premises have been used to store wine since 1968, and every year the collection is replenished with new vintages. Yes, Moldovans love wine so much that they devote a whole day to it. Well, actually, it's 2 days. This is one of my favorite fun facts about Moldova. Every year on October 3rd and 4th, wine producers from across the country open their homes and vineyards to guests as part of a nationwide celebration of local moonshine. There are free buses between wineries on these 2 days, and many wine tastings are 50% cheaper than usual. Hearing this, it is not surprising that Moldova is the 3rd drunkest nation on earth. According to the WHO, Moldova is the 2nd country in the world in terms of alcohol consumption per capita. The average Moldovan drinks about 16 to 17 liters of alcohol per year, depending on the year. This does not apply to children under the age of 15. There are only 2 countries whose residents consume more alcohol per capita than Moldovans: Belarusians with 17.5 liters per person per year, and Lithuanians with 18 liters per person per year. And when there are so many drunkards living in a country, it is also expected that it is home to the world's largest bottle-shaped building. Unless you have a lot of time on your hands, you've probably never wondered where you can find the world's largest bottle-shaped building. But don't worry, we still have the answer to your question. The world's largest bottle-shaped building is located in Târnavca in Moldova. The building is 28 meters high and houses the local spirits museum, dedicated to, as you might have guessed, spirits. Traditionally, the largest export market for Moldovan wine has been Russia. Since Moldova became part of the Soviet Union until the early 2000s, Russia consumed up to 90% of Moldova's annual wine exports. However, after a diplomatic dispute in the mid-2000s, 2006 to be exact, Russia banned many products of Moldovan and Georgian origin, including wine. This was a heavy blow to Moldova's wine industry, but the country is still among the top 20 wine-producing countries in the world. But enough about the wine. For example, one of the oldest monasteries in Europe, Old Orhai, is one of the most important historical monuments of Moldova and perhaps the oldest monastery in Europe. This monastery is an open-air monastic complex built over 2,000 years ago. Of course, today it is not in its original form, but the dilapidated ruins with monasteries, ancient fortifications, and other buildings are one of the most interesting but underrated historical sites in Europe. The Sipova Cave Monastery, located on the rocky bank of the Dniester River, is the largest monastery in Eastern Europe. The monastery dates back to the 6th century AD, but was abandoned for a long time before being restored in 1756. As you are probably beginning to understand, Moldova has a very rich history. Actually, its history goes back at least thousands of years. There are several important archaeological sites in Moldova, such as Vec Orhai and Trajan's Wall, where excavations have uncovered relics dating back 1.2 million years. The list of interesting items that have been found here includes early Paleolithic weapons and tools, as well as jewelry, kitchen utensils, and other Neolithic artifacts. Most Moldovans speak 2 to 3 languages. The official language of Moldova is Moldovan, which is almost the same as Romanian. In addition to this, most people in Moldova also speak Russian, Gagauz, or both. If you are wondering what the Gagauz language is, don't worry, we will tell you about that too. There is a language in Moldova that is on the verge of extinction. No, we do not mean the Moldovan language, which is the official language of the country. We mean the Gagauz language, which belongs to the Oghuz branch of the Turkic languages. There are about 180,000 Gagauz people left in the world, of which 120,000 live in Moldova. Their language is classified by UNESCO as endangered. This language is spoken in the autonomous region of Gagauzia. And since we mentioned the autonomous region, one of the fun facts about Moldova that you probably didn't know is that it has a breakaway territory. And no, this is not Gagauzia. Gagauzia is an autonomous region that is part of Moldova. The breakaway territory is Transnistria, a territory located in eastern Moldova that declared independence from Moldova in 1990, sparking the Transnistrian War. Today the region has its own border controls and currency, but is not officially recognized by any UN member. It is also probably the least developed part of Moldova, and visiting it will make you feel like you have traveled back in time to the glory days of the Soviet Union. But enough about wars, autonomies, and self-proclaimed territories. Let's talk a bit about the capital of Moldova. 1940 was not a very successful year for the capital of Moldova. Chisinau was first captured by the Red Army in June 1940. A few months later, in October, one of the most terrible earthquakes in the history of Moldova occurred in the city, destroying most of it. And as if that wasn't enough, a few months later the city was bombed by German forces. This is the main reason why you won't see many old buildings and landmarks in the capital. The national dish of Moldova is mamaliga, which is a porridge made from yellow corn flour. Traditionally, it is decorated with cottage cheese, pork skin, or sour cream and served with meat, fish, or a hearty stew. For its size, Moldova has a surprisingly rich fauna. In Moldova, you can find wild boars, badgers, wolves, deer, hares, muskrats, wild cats, foxes, and more than 300 species of birds. The reason Moldova has such rich and varied wildlife is protected areas. About 5% of the total territory of Moldova is under protection. Much of this is covered by the country's 5 nature reserves: Codru Nature Reserve, Lagoric Nature Reserve, Pădurea Domnească Nature Reserve, Royal Forest, Plaiul Făgălui Nature Reserve, Land of the Beaches, and Prutul de Jos Nature Reserve, Lower Prut. In one of these nature reserves, you will also find one of the oldest oak trees in Europe. The largest nature reserve, the Royal Forest, which stretches over 6,032 hectares, 14,905 acres, is home to one of the oldest oak trees in Europe. The tree grows in the eastern part of the reserve and is over 600 years old. With so much nature and protected areas, it's no surprise that most of the lands of Moldova are fertile. About 60% of Moldova's land is arable, making Moldova the 4th country with the most arable land as a percentage of its total territory. There are only 3 countries with more arable land, as a percentage of total area, than Moldova, Bangladesh, Denmark, and Ukraine. The main reason for this is that almost 3/4 of the territory of Moldova is covered with fertile black soil. If these interesting facts about Moldova are not enough, and you need more reasons to visit, here is one of them. A one-way ticket on the capital's tram costs 2 lei, which is about 10 cents, and a monthly pass will cost you no more than 10 euros. You can find decent accommodation for less than 30 euros per night. In general, the estimated monthly expenses for one person do not exceed $400. One of the main reasons why things are so cheap is because this is the poorest country in Europe. Moldova has been Europe's undisputed poverty champion since independence. With a GDP per capita of $4,551, Moldova is the poorest country in Europe after Ukraine and Kosovo. This brings us to the next point. Facts about poverty. About 20% of the rural population of Moldova lives in poverty. In urban areas, the percentage is much lower. Only 5% of people living in urban areas live in poverty. Moldova's main economic opportunities are mainly limited to agriculture. In addition, high-paying jobs are concentrated in large cities such as Chisinau, Tiraspol, Balti, and Benderi. Fortunately for Moldovans, things are now looking better. The country's poverty rate has dropped from 68% in 2000 to 12% in 2020. Besides poverty, Moldova is also struggling with a phenomenon known as brain drain. This phenomenon means that many young, smart, and capable people are leaving the country to seek better opportunities elsewhere. This phenomenon mainly affects developing countries, and it is not surprising that Moldova, the poorest country in Europe, suffers from brain drain. According to unofficial data, almost every fourth Moldovan works abroad. Most Moldovans enjoy dual Romanian citizenship, which allows them to work in EU countries. However, not everything is so gloomy. For example, one of my favorite fun facts about Moldova is that it has super fast internet connection. Of all the countries in the world, Moldova ranks third in the world in terms of ultra-high-speed internet coverage. About 90% of Moldovan residents have access to ultra-fast gigabit internet, that is, at a speed of 1 gigabyte per second. In today's era, most people want to leave the village and seek better opportunities in the city. However, despite this, you would still expect the largest village in Europe to be located in one of the largest countries of the old continent. This is wrong. The largest village in Europe is Congas. The village is located in the autonomous region of Gagauzia and has more than 12,500 inhabitants. Speaking of big things, Moldova is also home to the largest Jewish cemetery in Europe. If you're looking for the largest Jewish cemetery in Europe, you'll probably come across the Jüdischer Friedhof Weissensee in Germany. However, everything is not so simple. Even many locals don't really know that there is a large but abandoned Jewish cemetery near Chisinau that no one seems to care about. Until the 19th century, Bessarabia and the city of Chisinau were home to one of the most vibrant Jewish communities in Europe. Even though poverty is one of Moldova's biggest problems, if you ever find yourself in the city of Soroca, you will see a completely different story. Here, residents have been flaunting their wealth for years, building fairy tale homes largely inspired by famous landmarks like St. Peter's Basilica in St. Petersburg. Following these events, the town was named Gypsy Hill and has effectively become a tourist attraction as people come and go to see and admire the extravagant architecture of the Magpies. It's interesting that even before it became famous, during the Soviet Union, Soroki was called Gypsy Capital of the World. For reasons I honestly don't understand, Soroki was nicknamed the Gypsy Capital of the World during the Soviet era. It is true that Soroka is home to several thousand Roma, and they represent the majority of the population, but I think that a much more appropriate example of a Gypsy Capital of the World would be the municipality of Suto Orizari in Skopje. To this day, it is the only municipality in the world where Roma have their own local government, but that's just my opinion. From 2009 to 2012, Moldova was stuck in political uncertainty. At that time, the president was elected by parliament, not by popular vote. However, the difference between the main political blocs in Moldova was very strict, and the majority could not agree on a candidate for almost 3 years. In 2012, after 917 days of political deadlock, Moldova finally had a president again. It is customary for many Eastern Europeans to take off their shoes, and Moldova is no exception. In Moldova, it is generally offensive to enter someone's house with shoes on, unless otherwise stated. Traditionally, guests are always given slippers after taking off their shoes. Finally, we conclude this list of quirky fun facts about Moldova with an interesting birth tradition. Apparently, whenever a child is born in Moldova, his first bath should always be given by the eldest lady on the father's side of the family. During this custom, the lady places flowers so that the child sees beautiful things in life, milk so that life flows as easily as milk, honey so that life is as sweet as possible, and even some money in a bath of water. As we've discovered, Moldova is so much more than meets the eye. From its rich winemaking traditions and ancient monasteries to fascinating cultural quirks and stunning natural beauty, this small country packs a big punch. Whether it's the underground wine city of Craiova, the breathtaking landscapes of Old Orhei, or its record-breaking fun facts, Moldova is a hidden treasure that deserves more attention. If you've enjoyed this journey into Moldova's wonders, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories from around the globe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an adventure, and let us know in the comments what surprised you the most about Moldova. Until next time, happy exploring!